All right, team. How is everyone doing? Let me see. Martin, what's up? Thomas, Sajid, if I pronounce that correctly, hopefully I do. George, first time being here. Love to see that. Chris, just joined this channel today. Love to see that. Arius, awesome. Thank you, my man. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. What's up, Lucas? How are you doing? Great to see you again. Rick, good morning. Good afternoon, wherever you're from, of course. Hola, Ario. Hola, Pablo. Hola. Still getting familiar with fair value gaps. Love to see that. Love to see it. Aki, Shaunimus. That's a beautiful name, Shaunimus. I like that, Shaunimus. Or is your name just Sean? I like that. How is everyone doing? Good morning, Limitless. Good morning. S-Burn, of course. Love to see it. Hello, brother. New fan of yours from France. Learning a lot from you. Love that. Again, everyone all over the world again. India, Singapore, Ghana even. It's crazy. Poland, New Zealand, Australia. Yeah, Hamburg, the city of hamburgers. We even have someone that eats hamburgers every single day. No, I'm joking. How is everyone doing? I'm doing great. Thank you, Alamin. Thank you for asking. I'm doing great. It's been a very busy week for me. Other than that, enjoying life, of course. Jay Cuervo. Love to see it. How is everyone doing? Any updates on the lifetime? Will you still honor lifetime membership and price for those that emailed you? 100% limitless. 100%. For sure. Good evening from Thailand. The lifetime course is not available anymore. Good evening from lovely Thailand. So a little update on that as well is that we are switching over to the yearly. Indeed, so it will be a yearly subscription instead of a lifetime. But for everyone that has had contact with me in the past and already emailed me, because we knew price stage changes were going to happen. I've announced it for months and months before. So if you had contact with me already through email, etc., or whatever it is, asking or inquiring about the lifetime membership, then we are still going to honor that. As in, I always like to do that because I think that's the most fair thing to do. Buenos dias, papacito. My guy. Thank you. Check emails, please. Yes, for sure, Damien, for sure. You're a new follower, love your accounts. Thank you. Welcome to the team. Once you join the team, you have to watch out. There's no going back. No, I'm joking. Hey, Aro, as I could not join Masterclass, can you give an update how I can join Essential on monthly basis? Really looking forward to join your money-making team. For sure, Oleg. So a little update for everyone that's here as well. Currently, the website is under construction. So that means that the front end, basically all you're seeing on the website itself, is done. But the back end, is in where the course will happen, where the masterclass or the essentials, etc., will interact with each other. It will have a lot of features, etc. That's currently, as we speak, in the works. So I'm hoping it's done. And again, I say that as a non-developer, so maybe my opinion is completely wrong, but I'm saying that as someone from an outsider, that I hope it's done somewhere in the middle of the week, so we can get started again with that again. But would have to see for sure. But it's in the works. I'll keep everyone updated. It's a great upgrade though, so it was about time that we move on from up. Hey, Limitless again. Limitless, always with the donation, Limitless. That's crazy. Thank you, Limitless. You're the man. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. It's definitely no going back. You've opened my eyes. Love to see that. Definitely no going back. Once you're in the rabbit hole, there's no going back. Discover your channel 5 days ago. Amazing. Literally changed how I see the market. More easy and simple. Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing, Bantu. Thank you. Belgium. Love to see it. Yeah, it's. I said it in a mentorship yesterday in a video where we aim always to be extremely effective, but in a simple manner, because we all know that it's very easy to make a top-down analysis and have all these rules. But how can we simplify our top-down analysis and still be super effective? And that is exactly what we go over, right? So I made almost 7K in my funded Thursday and Friday because of that. That is insane. That is insane. Not yet, Pablo. No, I did not hear it yet. No. But I've not encountered those kind of people, so I think I'm good for now. In the new city, it's been all right. It's pretty nice, to be honest. I like it. It's very peaceful. I like it. People are nice. Really enjoy it. Let me see. So what is the game plan for this week? That is a great question. So let's dive into that. Well, first, the market maker model with a run of 10 RON, actually. I think it's Romanian, right? That is crazy. Again, donations are appreciated, not necessary at all. You don't need to do anything. I love to do this for free even, so no need to do anything. But it's much appreciated. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. That's quite insane. It's quite insane. All right, when will you reveal your face? Oof. Well, I was planning on beginning of 2024 to incorporate in some manners probably a face cam in the videos as well. Because when I'm talking, etc., you might not want to stare at the screen, so you can stare at my face whilst talking. But other than that, if you really want to see my face, then my face is out there, as in my Instagram has my face, my personal Instagram, etc. So if you really want to see it, then yeah. All right, let's dive into it right here. So what is the game plan? That is a great question. Because the game plan is for me being bearish on the dollar overall. And again, we have opened with a new monthly candle. Now, when opening with a new monthly candle, the first very easy thing to do is just simply take a look at the next monthly candle. Where does it likely want to go towards? Now, the way I want you to see the monthly and the weekly, even the daily, etc., is I don't look at the monthly. So this is just a quick insight. I don't look at the monthly looking like this. All right, we might be going higher right here. No, what I do is I look at the next monthly candle. What can the next candle do right there? So we have 26 days and 11 hours. What are we going to do in those 26 days and 11 hours? What is the next candle likely going to expand towards? So if we have this previous month's low, leading up to that story is we have this disrespected bullish fair value gap. Then we have this bearish fair value gap potentially in the making. What does that mean? That we can create the body of a fair value gap lower right there. That also means that we should not trade back towards this level right there in order for us to actually create the fair value gap. Hope you're still sticking with me. Hope that makes sense. Because right there, if we truly have bearish intention, we are going to create a monthly fair value gap lower. If the market already knows that, etc., then right there, that monthly fair value gap will be created. Meaning that we should not trade back above that low of that first candle right there. The reason why that is important, because that already helps you to understand where we are likely going lower from. Because right now, the area where we are going lower from is, well, where are we currently? Right there. In this area, somewhere in this area is where we are going low from. Of course, a little bit lower, since we don't want to see it trade back into that low. This area is where we are going lower from. Somewhere there. How can we refine that a little bit more? Well, the first target, again, that we have is that previous month's low. It's quite a nice target, quite an easy target. After that, it's this low. That low is pretty far away right now, so we can eventually look at that low. Let's first just simply look at this previous month's low. Then on the weekly, if we dive into the weekly, then we have a few areas that we can go lower from. Which the first one is this fair value gap, that weekly fair value gap that is sitting right there. And I think we can all see as well that we have the weekly fair value gap right above it. So that right there are those are two areas that we can continue lower from towards the target, which is the previous month's low, which in this case is also the previous week low. So depending on what we do right there, overall we understand we are bearish. As in the dollar, no question, right now we are bearish. Unless that changes and in the meantime we start going higher, etc., then we might be bullish. But overall, we are bearish right now at this moment in time. That's the probabilities telling us. So the next part is, where can we continue lower from? Well, we have a weekly fair value gap right there, and we have a weekly fair value gap right there. All right, that is where we can continue lower from, potentially. Ideally, beginning of the week, sticking into the weekly fair value gap to then continue lower right there. If we go into the daily time frame and we look at, all right, we have this daily fair value gap higher right there. The first thought that people might have, and I can fully understand that as well, is that, all right, then we have this daily fair value gap higher. So if we are going lower from this weekly fair value gap, then what would you do? You would want to see, can we continue higher off of that to come into the weekly fair value gap to then continue lower? Yes, I understand, and that might happen. Don't get me wrong, that might happen. Overall, that is not super high probability to trade. You want to make sure you focus on the highest probability price action. And the highest probability price action is just simply following the bias, the direction, the overall direction. So the overall direction is bearish. So ideally, you do not want to look to trade this daily fair value gap to continue higher, to then come into the weekly fair value gap, to then continue lower, because that requires a lot of specific action to actually play out. That is asking a lot of the market. So you want to wait for the highest probability, ideally. The highest probability is either disrespecting this daily fair value gap, continuing lower, creating a new daily fair value gap lower, or coming into the weekly fair value gap to then continue lower right there. So if we get clear signs of that daily fair value gap to potentially continue higher, yes, that can be traded for sure, as long as we understand that the probabilities of that trade playing out is a little bit lower than if you were to wait just for the weekly fair value gap. That is important to understand. Overall, understanding that the dollar here is just bearish, and I quite like it. I quite like it. So on ES, and let me go over one thing first, actually. It's December, and a stereotype on December is that the market is bad, the market is ugly, and we just don't really have anything to work with. This is true to an extent, because of course there's a reason why the stereotype is there, but it is also important to understand that it is a stereotype, as in the month, throughout the month, you will still have nice price action. It is just that this month, and this is same as in the summer, where you need to pay more attention to detail. If there's one thing that just sort of becomes very suspicious and you don't like it, then you need to take a step back a little bit earlier than what you would do in November and in October, for example. Because in October, November, all right, we can still play out nicely. In December, if we are not playing out, we might just get caught up in a consolidation, seek and destroy until it's 2024. So that is very important to understand, that if you get the smallest sign that you do not like, then don't trade it. Don't trade it. And that's also being said that if you make your profits, or if you made your profits already throughout the year, don't trade December. Just don't do it, or at least be very careful and lower your risk overall. But don't actively trade December. It's like the same. What I always like to mention is that you are not going to make all your profits on a Friday throughout the week. If you are reliant on the last part of a month, or the last month of a year, actually, the last part of a week to create your whole profits, then you likely already missed out. So accept that fact that you missed out, and then redeem yourself the next week, or redeem yourself the next year. That is important. It's a long-term game. We are not here to blow an account in December and then basically messing up our whole year. That is very important to understand. And it's the same on a Friday. If you already made profits and you're going into a Friday, then simply don't trade Friday. You don't want to lose those profits on a Friday. It's the worst thing that can happen. It's the same for December, losing all your profits in December. That's just a shame. It's just a shame. So don't do that. If you are 40% up or something like that, and you're about to show investors, hey, I'm 40% up, and all of a sudden you're 30% up, that's going to sting. That's going to hurt. 30% is still great. Don't get me wrong. But you just lost out on 10% in a month. That's insane. That is too much to lose. So it's very important to understand as well. All right, let's go over ES right here. So ES overall, again, just very simply said, bullish. Nice voice crack as well. Then if we take a look at that swing high right there, I would like to see that swing high overlap, ideally with some kind of fair value gap that we can continue higher off of. If we take a quick look at the monthly currently, yes, we are creating a monthly fair value gap higher potentially. but the next candle can still expand higher as well. So overall, it's not super interesting right now. Let's take a look at the daily. If the daily has something to tell us, where we have this high right there, if we can now create a daily fair value gap that is perfectly overlapping, or at least close to it, towards this high, that would be very, very nice to then continue higher off of that right there. That is looking quite nice overall. The 4-hour value gaps as well, that is definitely nice. With the next target, of course, being this high right there. For the week, you might want to target a little bit lower. Let's see if we can find a daily target right there. A daily target is this overlapping? No, then it's this. That is the first target for the week right there. All right. And again, that's a target, not something you want to trade off of. You just want to look at longs mostly, unless you get a different story on the 1 hour, etc. But that requires a little bit more advanced knowledge as well. All right, NASDAQ. So NASDAQ has been quite disappointing, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but NASDAQ has been quite disappointing last week. A little bit of a shame, and that's exactly what I mean with that December price action. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee, it's going to be bad, etc. But you just have to be aware. When you get clear signs very early on, the earliest signs that it does not want to follow through, it doesn't want to do anything, step back. Step back immediately. It's very important. So here, the drawn liquidity overall, again, is quite clear. And this is all based on the monthly. As in, I just still remember the monthly context. We call out this whole move, basically, where we call it the bearish move towards the overlapping part to the new context high right there. That is something we can expect. Then right here, we can just look to continue higher. Same premise that we should create this monthly fair value gap right there, ideally. So here, again, where are we likely continuing higher from? We have this weekly fair value gap sitting right there. Now, if you have been following NASDAQ here, then you can see it's really been struggling trying to get into the weekly fair value gap throughout the whole week. So here, I would not rely fully that we are, again, going to trade into the weekly fair value gap. That's lower probability to do. The highest probability is to follow through on the longs right there. So ideally, waiting for the weekly fair value gap to be hit to then look to get involved. That's the highest probability. So in the meantime, if we already get a daily fair value gap higher, for example, then again, I would just follow along with that daily fair value gap right there, especially if we're close towards the draw on liquidity right there. So looking pretty promising. YM right here. So YM has taken that draw on liquidity, and this is always a little bit more difficult to trade, where we can just look to continue higher for something overlapping with that high. As in a weekly fair value gap. Is there a weekly fair value gap overlapping with that high? No, currently not. Is there a daily fair value gap overlapping with the high? No, currently not. But if we get that eventually right there, after Monday potentially, can sting into that, that could be very nice to continue higher off of as well. Only thing is that if NASDAQ and ES, they just have the clear drawn liquidity still. So what I would prefer to trade is always the pair, the instrument that still has the clear drawn liquidity. Reason being for that is because YM is basically in the middle of nowhere. As in, we don't really know right there where it's going to have rejection and continue lower. That's very important. As in, if we can get that, then we still have a clear indication. All right, once we come above this high, then of course we take a step back. Here, I'm not too certain on when to take a step back anymore. So if there's a clear drawn liquidity on any instrument, then I would prefer to trade that for sure. So on DAX, we can also see that the drawn liquidity is really, really clear. It's that high. It's that high. And very simply said, just because we're exploding towards it, right? So right now, what can we continue higher off of overall? Well, if we can create, again, a daily fair value gap higher, it could be nice. But I do want to have a minimal retracement. As in, this daily fair value gap right there is too big of a retracement to then still continue higher. Doesn't make a lot of sense. If price now wants to continue higher, it should do it quite fast. It should take out that drawn liquidity quite fast. Because if we remember, and this might actually be an interesting video to make as well, it's the swing rates, right? If we're close towards the drawn liquidity, then the closer we are, the less of a retracement you are expecting before we actually deliver towards the drawn liquidity. Because price wants to do it fast. The last push wants to happen very fast. So that is very important to understand as well. Where the drawn liquidity is, again, quite clear. Australian dollar, US dollar. So This is quite interesting. And of course, we are just disrespecting the monthly fair value gap very nicely. The previous month's high, did we already reach that? Almost equal highs, it seems like. Let me check the highs. 762, 765. Well, we basically reached that right there. But we can just look to continue higher after that as well. So here on the weekly, what do we actually see? I see these highs, but those highs are still quite far away right now. I like to have a little bit of a closer target as well. So here on the weekly, we do have this weekly fair value gap. Now, this is where, of course, the reading of the fair value gaps comes in as well. Because if we look at this weekly fair value gap that is sitting right there, then this candle, the previous week, is that a candle where you would say, all right, that candle has prepared price action. So it's giving a push already and saying, all right, let me help you to trade into the fair value gap to then continue higher. Not really, right? Because then you would have seen a different candle, where on the dollar, if you take a look at the dollar, here you would say yes, because look at this candle close in comparison to Australian dollar, US dollar candle close right there. So here, yes, we have a weekly fair value gap right there, but I do think we can go into the daily where we are already following through on daily context right there to continue higher off of that. If we can create again a new daily fair value gap off of that, then just looking to follow through on that could be very nice as well. So overall, that's quite nice. Now let's see if we can get a clearer target on the daily time frame. We're in the order block. The next target would be that swing high right there. That could be nice potentially. Definitely looking interesting. Now the pair that is very interesting in my opinion. I really like this pair, and it's been pretty clean actually this past week. And it's a shame that I was quite busy and we didn't have the time to make the live stream on Tuesday, because the price action here was quite nice, and I hope some people capitalize on it right here. And if not, then I take full responsibility for not explaining everything correctly. Because right here, if we look at the monthly, then we have this monthly fair value gap lower. So we're clearly disrespecting that. All right. Do we have something currently to continue higher off of on the monthly? No. So what do? We go down a time frame. We go down the time frame and think, all right, well, what can we continue higher off of right here? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Weekly fair value gap to continue higher, with the first target being this high right there. Next target, that swing high right there. This is looking extremely nice. Now, giving you a heads up on my experience in December is that things can look very nice. It's the same in the summer, where things might look very nice, but they just don't deliver very nicely. And what I mean by that is that things, they might be perceived, they might seem the most beautiful price action in the world, and then the entry pattern might be completely shit. And this is what happens in December. This is what happens in August sometimes as well. So understanding that, again, when you get first signs that price action might not be nice, then take a step back. But right here, if we look to follow through on that weekly fair value gap, then we can continue higher definitely towards the first daily fair value gap. So that daily fair value gap right there is the first drawn liquidity that I would say, all right, that's pretty obvious. The first drawn liquidity right there that we can trade into. So if we want to follow through, then again, we need to first overtake that daily fair value gap. Doesn't mean that we have to wait for price action to come back all the way above that daily fair value gap to then look to trade. No. We can first trade the first leg right there into the daily fair value gap. That is quite nice. After that, wait a little bit for the rejection that we are likely going to have. After that, once we have had the rejection, you get a new fair value gap higher off of that. Then, boom, full margin longs, 10% on a single trade. No, don't do that. But again, you understand what I'm saying, right? If that happens, then I definitely want to get involved. So the weekly fair value gap, of course, is the stronger fair value gap, because simply said, it's on the time frame above the daily time frame. So if we go into the 4 hour, do we have something to work with on the 4 hour? Not really. And yes, I can see that we have a very small fair value gap. I don't use those small fair value gaps. And the reason for that is because it's not universally agreed that it's a fair value gap. What I mean by that is that brokers will have a little bit of different price action. sometimes. Well, usually. And what that means is, again, that, for example, on CME, on the indices, on the futures, that is the quote-unquote official price action. So when there is the smallest fair value gap, we know that is a fair value gap. This right there sometimes isn't a fair value gap. So that is very important to understand, because then those fair value gaps are just simply, I ignore them. I don't see them as fair value gaps. I don't trade off of them. Is that a little bit subjective? Yes, you could argue it is, but once you get the hang of that as well, then you understand what a very small fair value gap is, and it's quite easy to then just ignore it. Because the way I see it is, and the way I try to make it mechanical or make it objective is, if I see currently right there, and I can't see if that is a fair value gap just by looking at the chart right now, and I need to zoom in like this to see the fair value gap, that's not a good sign. That is not what you want to have. I just want to go on auto mode right there. So if I double click on the right side of my chart on the numbers right there, it goes into auto mode. If I can see the fair value gaps from this standpoint, then that is a fair value gap I want to trade off of. So that is quite important to understand. Next point is, if we go into the 1 hour, and there's a reason I go into the 1 hour. And again, don't get too crazy on it, but we could already see an entry pattern right here evolve. So we have this ST, a beautiful ST, absolutely textbook ST. Very, very, very nice. Bearish fair value gaps getting disrespected. Bullish fair value gaps right there being created. If those bullish fair value gaps right now want to continue higher, then the first target is, of course, this high right there. But after that, the daily fair value gap, to then waiting for the rejection, new fair value gap higher off of that, to then follow through on the highs overall right there. Now, I also need you to understand that this is, again, me expecting something, but it's more so speculation. As in, will it play exactly out in that manner? Probably not. Because that's just the nature of the market, where if you're expecting something and you rely your full expectation on that only happening, you're going into the market with a closed mind. You always want to have an open mind. So something else might happen right there. So let's keep that in mind as well, that we don't put a full expectation on this exactly playing out. But if it's similar, then we can still capitalize on it, of course. So right there, EU, wow, looking very promising. Let's put it that way. Looking potentially very, very nice. All right, let's look at GU. So on GU, we again have a pretty clear target. And I need you to understand a little bit as well on how tops and bottoms form, because that really helps in understanding where the next candle might want to trade towards. If GU wants to make a top in the market right now, then do you think it will stop here? No, definitely not. Then it will want to sweep this high right there first to then potentially create that top. Do I expect GU to make a top after sweeping that high or taking that high? No, but then that serves as a great target first. So that is quite nice. And then you would go into the weekly to see how can we actually capitalize on that. Do we have something to capitalize on it right now? Not really, because we have the weekly value gap right there. Would you expect the weekly value gap to be traded into right there to then take out the weekly highs right there? No, that is, again, too big of retracement. You would then expect first the premium and then potentially the weekly value gap right there. So you would switch it around. That is very important. So if that happens, then yes, look to target the weekly value gap. But in the meantime, right here, let's first look at some longs potentially. So we are already in the middle of finishing daily context. We had fair value gaps and we can look to target that high right there. We're in the middle of finishing daily context. If this happens, you can go into the 4 hour, etc., to look at a 4 hour value gap right there to continue higher off of. Potentially even the 1 hour right there to look to finish that last move, to finish the last bit of that price action towards that draw on liquidity. So again, that is quite nice. Overall, I would argue, all right, if we want to continue higher right here, I would like to see at least a new daily value gap being created higher to then look to get involved and get some more clear price action. Because I think we can agree, the bias here is quite clear. The narrative, where are we going higher from? What we saw in EU was extremely clear. EU, the bias was clear. The narrative was super clear. Where on GU, the bias is clear. The narrative, moi. It's yes, we can force something, but if I feel the need to force something, then why not just trade EU? when it's a little bit higher probability. So overall, again, bullish. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let me see. What are we doing? We have a very small weekly VWAP gap right there. Again, that is a VWAP gap you could potentially use because I can see it whilst I don't need to zoom in. It's not, again, where you would expect the next week trade into right there. Unless you get a sweep of some kind of highs right there. And then you could look trade towards the weekly VWAP gap eventually. But right here, if we take a look, monthly as well, disrespecting the monthly VWAP gap. So likely targeting that next high potentially. Then if we take a look at where we can continue higher from, we are creating a nice swing low of the previous context right there. That is very nice price action. So again, if we create a new fair value gap higher right there, that is very nice to potentially look to trade off of as well. Quite interesting overall. Quite like it. USD Canadian dollar. This is what I mean with December price action. We had a very clear draw on liquidity and we knew it was going to trade into the weekly VWAP gap, but overall the delivery was just not super nice. It just really wasn't. Yes, the delivery was there. You could have potentially gotten involved, but the delivery was just not super clean. Now right here we have waited for the rejection. We got the rejection higher. Weekly VWAP gap does not want to push higher right there. So right now, what is the next target? We have swing lows sitting right there, which if we use the daily right now, daily fair value gap to continue lower off of that, to then look to target this low sitting right there. Yes, that is very nice. That is looking quite nice. I really like that as well. With the potential order block there as well. Wow, I really like that. That's looking quite interesting. Potentially, of course, if we create that fair value gap lower. USDCHF, let's see. This was also where we had the alert on the weekly fair value gap to continue lower last week. Actually, we did not come into that, and it's not really a surprise, to be honest, because we were just very bearish without any retracements. So here, the next target on the monthly, we can just look to continue towards that low, which on the weekly, let's see, is also that low, not a higher target. We've reached that swing low, the previous swing low. Then where can we continue lower from? Well, on the weekly time frame, yes, that weekly VWAP gap. That's quite a hefty retracement to then continue lower though. So let's see if we can find something on the daily. And this is why USDCHF was just not super clean, because overall, again, that narrative was sort of missing, where the narrative was just not super clear right here. Here, this is again not something I would want to trade throughout the week. I can already say that I'm likely not going to take any trades on USDCHF. And the reason for that is because the narrative, etc., is just not super clear. Where USD Canadian dollar, EU, were just really clear. So right here, I want to wait for a new daily fair value gap lower to then look to potentially get involved. But overall, I want to give this some more time, some more thought, and not necessarily more thought, just more time to create a narrative. To create that narrative, that is what I want to wait for. Where the draw liquidity is clear, the narrative could be better. US dollar JPY. So let's see. On the monthly, we don't really have a clear target right here. So we can go down one time frame. Where on the weekly, we have this swing low that we can reach for right there. So that swing low is also looking quite nice to target. So if we take a look at the daily, where can we continue lower from? Then we can see we have this daily fair value gap with, let's see, daily order block as well. Very nice overall. And if we now want to continue lower, we can look to continue lower, hopefully, ideally create a new daily fair value gap lower right there, and even already go into the 4 hour to look at this 4 hour fair value gap lower right there. That is also looking quite interesting to then continue lower off of that. It's quite nice. It's really quite nice. I do quite like that as well. So if we look at silver, let's see. Silver monthly just continuing higher, of course. Overall, it's been very bullish. And look to target that high. Then on the weekly, we can see we have a clear weekly expansion. It's not a good, or it's not a new fair value gap though, not yet. So that's not in the making just yet, or it's in the making, but it's just not being created yet. If we can get daily fair value gaps higher again, potentially, well, ideally, I would have seen a daily fair value gap overlapping with this high. So if we get this daily fair value gap, then a retracement to close the fair value gap, because then it comes into the overlapping high right there, to then continue higher. That could be quite nice overall. So this is definitely also pretty interesting to look target that high. The drawn liquidity again is quite clear. Gold. All right, gold is about to make new all-time highs, I think. I believe those are new all-time highs. So let's see. So if we want to reach that drawn liquidity, where can we go higher from? If we are going higher, where are we likely going higher from? Well, we are about to create a daily fair value gap again, which the daily fair value gap previously was also quite nice price action we saw right there, has been respected. And right now, if we can continue higher of that new daily fair value gap, that could also be very nice. It's looking quite interesting. Then let's see. Let me actually take a quick look at the economic calendar, just so I give you the proper information. Let me see when news events happen. CHF Australian dollar on Monday, then Tuesday. All right, Tuesday. Yes, that lines up perfectly. So I would expect here Monday to create the daily fair value gap, then Tuesday sting into it to then continue higher. Tuesday or Wednesday sting into it. That's looking quite nice, quite interesting. And we have NFP on Friday. Take that into account as well, where ideally you want to be active at the beginning of the week. Then on Thursday, Friday, you want to take a small step back, potentially. Then potentially looking to get involved after NFP as well. All right, looking good. The market is potentially looking good. Now, again, that is potentially. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. Don't force anything. Bitcoin, do we finally have some price action to work with, or is it again quite bad? We are not coming into that monthly fair value gap overall. All right, interesting. We might come into it later. Let's see what we want to do. If you can create a new weekly fair value gap, then again, you would not expect a retracement towards that high right there of that candle. So on the daily time frame, you would expect, or the probabilities are that we might already continue higher off of this daily fair value gap. If we do not do that, then we could very well be overall bearish again. So it's quite interesting. That's sort of, we went over the last line of defense, and in the video, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but in the mentorship, I mention all the time that when you have the last line of defense, I also mention the last line of defense in a different manner, where this is also a last line of defense, but it's not a last line of defense as in your typical swing low, swing high. No, it's a last line of defense because if this doesn't hold, then the drawn liquidity is quite clear. Next daily fair value gap to potentially even continue lower. So that is a different line of last line of defense, but it's also last line of defense. Crude oil, let's see. So we had a nice sweep of these highs right there. And now I do think on the monthly as well, we can just look to continue lower. With the monthly having a very clear drawn liquidity again. That previous month's low. So on the weekly, we swept that previous week high. On the daily, if we can get daily fair value gap even lower already, that could be very interesting to then get involved on the Tuesday again to look to trade towards this low. It's looking quite interesting. Then eventually, again, seeing what we want to do after taking that low. On the 4 hour as well, it's looking quite interesting right there. Looking quite interesting. Looking quite nice as well. The market overall has potential. There is potential for sure. Nifty, let's see. Has Nifty, yes, Nifty has delivered towards a drawn liquidity. Now, for all the people trading Nifty, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Nifty does not really like to retrace from what I've noticed. Wants to do things very fast, which is quite interesting. So Nifty, again, it's really fun to take a look back at the overall year that we had, where Nifty, we've just been also very accurate to call it. Right there, sweeping that high, coming into the overlapping part overall. It's really been interesting looking at Nifty. And right here, we can again look to continue higher off of this high. That high is ideally what you want to have as an overlapping fair value gap to continue higher off of that. So a daily fair value gap even, continuing higher off of that could be quite nice. Now, I always mention it. What you need to do, or what you ideally want to do, is use no gaps candle. The indicator right there, that was no gaps candles right there, to look at the fair value gaps that are being created. So we can see there's almost a fair value gap being created right there to continue higher off of that potentially. That's looking quite nice as well. You can also change the no gaps candles to your own colors of the candles. Makes it a little bit more aesthetic, more nice to see as well. All right, perfect. So that is the forecast list of all the majors. There is quite some opportunity. If you have another pair, then of course, don't feel free to mention them. Feel free to mention them. Rich, please are you open the monthly mentorship? I want to get in. I'm trying my best, my friend. I am trying my best. The website is almost finished. After that, everyone will have the chance to get in again. Are the lifetime subscriptions disappearing? Yes. They are disappearing for now. So they are currently turning into a yearly subscription. But again, if you already had contact with me and we already had email contact, etc., which is quite important, then you will always have access to that. So don't worry. When will the membership open again? Yes, so a quick announcement for everyone that is here. It's quite important as well. Currently, the mentorship is closed, and that's mainly because we're transferring to a new website. Our own website, we will have a lot more features as well. It's insane, actually, how many features we will have compared to the website we are currently on. The quality will be better. We will have automatic transcription of the videos. It's absolutely perfect. I'm very, very excited for it. The only thing is that that's currently setting up. As in, we're very close to it. We're waiting for a few things as well that's not in our control. But overall, we are very close to it. Hopefully, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm not going to promise you anything. I can't promise that. I simply can't because I'm also not a developer. So I can say things, but again, it's not up to me. But hopefully by then, at least next week, hopefully to open up again. That's my goal. That's my goal. And then yeah, that's very nice. I'm looking forward to that. Limitless, what should we do for a lifetime if we please contact me, Limitless. Send another email and I will send you a separate link so you won't have to pay for yearly. Let me see. ST model at USD Canadian dollar last Friday at 8:30 red news. Let me see. ST model 8:30 on Friday. Let me take a quick look. I think we had some, what was it? A move into the 4-hour VWAP right there to continue lower off of that. That overall on USD Canadian dollar was quite nice. Don't get me wrong. This price action here, the last Friday, what we saw on US dollar pairs is that Friday, Thursday were quite nice days to trade. Beginning of the week, moi. But last 2 days of the week was really nice to trade overall. That's also where the volatility more so came in by the looks of it. So let's see, on the 15-minute, we have 15-minute ST, did not trade back into it. Well, this one right there into the breaker overall. But if we take a look at the 5-minute, then yes, we see this very clear ST right there. That's quite nice, actually. It's quite nice. Pretty interesting. The ST model is where we have how do I say that? It's a sharp turn. I know how to say it. Don't get me wrong. I know how to say my concept. But it's more so about how do I say it without spoiling the whole mentorship. It's a sharp turn. It's a sharp turn, this sharp turn, and the bearish VWAP is quite important where you only basically need one bearish VWAP to get involved. That is very interesting. It's very interesting. GBPJPY, let's see. GBPJPY. GBPJPY has been quite interesting. And we can see, and I have a lot of things to say about GBPJPY right here. Because if we want to create a monthly VWAP, then I do think GBPJPY can really, has a high probability, potentially to consolidate this whole month. To then wait for the monthly VWAP to then next year, that's crazy. It sounds so crazy to me, next year, to then trade into it, to then continue higher off that, basically next month. So January is something, it's a very high probability for me to do something like this right there. That this whole candle, this whole month can just consolidate right there. Because it's preparing to trade into that monthly VWAP to then continue higher off of that. So here on the weekly as well, we are seeing clearly that we are not creating a new weekly VWAP higher. So overall, I would say, all right, this could be your target on the weekly. But if we are overall still bullish, then the monthly will want to create this monthly VWAP to continue higher off of that. So not trade back or not being close towards that high right there of the candle. So on the weekly, that is not looking quite good if we want to continue that bullish price action. So if we trade towards it, again, don't get me wrong, then yes, I'm a fan of shorts, but right there, it's pretty 50-50 at this moment in time, where I do think we can definitely look to consolidate overall for the rest of this month to then drop into the monthly gap to then continue higher off of that. So here, if I was to do anything, if we can get a new daily gap either higher or lower right there, then yes, I might want to look to get involved. But right now, I want to take a little step back, Let me see. How to anticipate volatility in crosses. You would want to look at mainly just cross news. As in, for example, GBPJPY, look at GBP news and JPY news. So ideally, orange or red folder news for that week. Ideally, that's what you want to have. EURJPY, yes. EURJPY has also been quite nice for... Yes, this has also been quite nice. Let me remove a lot of things here. A little mess. But on the monthly, we are just very clearly having this monthly gap, which we can look to target right now and also look to trade off of potentially. So on the weekly, we saw, again, we have those weekly gaps, but we just have the monthly gap right there, which is quite nice. So here on the daily, we saw actually last week, which was really interesting price action, failing to follow through right there, which indicated to us, we mentioned at the beginning of last week, we wanted to see a daily gap higher to potentially target this high. Did not get that. At that moment in time, you can already look to switch that bias, go into the 4 hour to look for all these short opportunities right there. That is very, very interesting. And right now, we can just look at, again, new premium rates, daily gap, 4 hour gaps to continue lower towards the monthly gap right there. It's very interesting. I skipped my dinner for your life. I can skip my sleep if you don't end the live, if you don't end the stream, Aru. I also wanted to ask, what is your favorite song by Mariah Carey? Gotta be the Christmas song, right? It's got to be. It's got to be. I like that. I like that. Don't skip your sleep, my friend, and make sure you eat. How to be more patient? That's a great question. And how to be more patient? Is there one single thing that I can tell you that all of a sudden will transfer you to being patient? No. It's a practice. It's, again, a skill that you can acquire. Acquiring a skill without renting too much is just done through repetitive things. So doing it over and over and over, getting better at it slowly. So being patient and a mindset shift that I had is that if I just simply am not patient, then usually from what I've noticed is that I just lose. Very simply said. The same with if I don't stick to my trading plan, then usually somehow the market works in this magical way where you get sort of punished by it automatically. So something like a losing trade automatically happens if you don't stick to that trading plan, from what I've noticed. And if you do win, which is even worse, if you win and you're not being patient, etc., then that patience is getting rewarded. So that's the even more dangerous thing. So hopefully by getting more patience, and the way I got more patient is by getting punished for my impatience, basically. And eventually that led me to needing to be patient. Let me see. INFY. Is that the same as Nifty or is that a little bit different? Let me see. INFY. Is it? Which one do I need to do? The Indian one? I reckon the Indian one, right? I reckon the Indian one. Let me see on the monthly. On the monthly, all right. We are definitely, well, potentially looking to target that previous month's high right there, which is the closest target. Eventually looking to continue higher as well. But we are sweeping those highs. So monthly standpoint, I would say pretty 50-50. Let's look at the weekly. Weekly coming into that weekly gap right there. That is quite nice, to be honest. That is quite nice. So here I would say that the previous month's high right there is definitely what I would look at as target. And on the daily, this is, I believe, a daily gap, or I'm mistaken. Let me see. Yes, that's a daily gap right there. To continue higher off of that right there on the 4 hour. Wow, pretty nice actually. to target the overall highs that we have right there. So currently I would expect higher prices right there. It's quite interesting, quite interesting. Yes, SIFA, for sure, my friend, for sure. We'll get that sorted, SIFA, no worries at all. We have to get the site up and running. So currently there's no enrollments at all. But after that, yes, for sure. My patient strategy, set up an alarm to go off at the same rate as my entry time frame. When it goes off, do a quick analysis. If nothing to do, go do something else. That is such a good strategy, my friend. Oh, that is such a good strategy, Diederik. That is absolutely lovely. That's also what I would advise. It's, yes, that could actually very much help as well. And that's a great advice from Diederik here, is that if you want to be more patient, I would definitely also look at alerts, using alerts. I use alerts for everything. My chart time when I take a trade is around maybe 5 to 15 minutes. Really, it's that short. I always tell my mentorship as well, the forecast here that I'm doing, I could do it in 5 minutes. As in, I know in 5 minutes, this whole list on what I want to trade. And again, that's just basically experience. That's not me bragging. Don't get me wrong. That's not me trying to boost my ego or anything. Don't get me wrong. But that's just me telling you that you can also achieve that over time. So eventually over time, that is going to be very beneficial. And the reason for that is also why I like to do it fast, is because then I don't force anything. The longer you are going to look at a certain pair, a certain instrument, so your chart time is above 3 hours on a day, I would argue that is way too much. Already 2 hours is quite a lot. Then I would argue right there, you're slowly starting to force IDs, because everyone can get to a trade ID if they stare at a chart long enough. If we stare at the chart long enough, we can get to a trade ID. Does it mean that it's a good trade ID? No. If you can get to a trade ID in the shortest amount of time, so if I look at EU and I already can see a trade ID in 5 seconds by the weekly Verweij gap, then that is the one I want to be trading, because that took me the shortest amount of time to get to a trade ID, which means it's very obvious, it's very clear, it's high probability. If I look at USDCHF and I need to force an ID, I don't want to do that. So what does that have to do with being more patient? Setting alerts, because setting alerts is very important to limit your chart time as well. And that will allow you to be more patient as well, because you can just go do something else, like Diederik also said. So yes, that is great advice. Let me see. CHFJPY and GBP Canadian dollar. Let's go over that. CHFJPY. Let me turn off the indicator actually. Let me see. All right. Perfect. On the monthly time frame. Monthly potentially creating a fair value gap higher from what I can see. Is that a high probability of happening? Wow. Would have to stay above it already right here, which is not super high probability. So on the weekly right there, don't really have a weekly value gap higher. I remember CHFJPY. I think I was actually looking at this to potentially look at shorts where... What a noise right there. It's too much going on. All right, we had this daily value gap that failed to push price higher overall and creating a new daily value gap. Did not do that. So right here, I would like the idea of shorts right there to potentially target this low and eventually this low as well. But again, if we get clear signs, then I want to do that. So first I need to wait for 4 hour value gaps as a minimum right there to target those lows. So very clear signs. Other than that, if we get clear signs that we again want to be bullish, then I would still switch it and to target this high. And after that high, seeing what we want to do. So GBP Canadian dollar. Let's see. GBP Canadian dollar on the monthly, potentially creating a monthly fair value gap higher as well. All right. Overall, quite bullish. Then on the weekly, came into the weekly fair value gap right there that we can continue higher off of. On the daily, that automatically leads, of course, to this target right there. Let me see. Oh, that target right there. And eventually right there, those highs. That's quite interesting. And on the daily time frame, we only have this daily value gap right there that we need to overtake. So wait for the rejection a little bit to then get involved. It's very similar to EU, actually. 4 hour right here, potentially creating 4 hour value gaps higher as well. 1 hour Yeah, that's looking quite nice. It's looking quite nice. I really like. I like GBP Canadian dollar a lot more than CHFJPY right here. It's looking quite nice to continue higher overall. Quite nice. Punish yourself for not being patient by not doing single thing you enjoyed doing that day. That's also a great strategy. It's a little bit more radical, but it's a great strategy for sure. Let me see. RTY future. I love analyzing those pairs that I've never, or the stocks or whatever it is. It's this one, US Russell, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Limitless. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see if that's the right one. Let me see. All right, monthly right here. If we take a look at the monthly, then we can see that right there we had a monthly fair value gap, and that did not get respected. So overall, we can look to continue higher. Potentially these highs as target as well. Then on the daily time frame, we did not come into the weekly fair value gap. Quite interesting. On the daily time frame, a daily fair value gap higher to then look to target higher overall as well. That's quite nice. It's quite nice, actually. Quite nice. With the first targets being, I would argue, that daily fair value gap right there. That one. It's quite interesting. When do you take trade without high impact news? The only how do I explain it correctly? I need to figure out the words in my mind. The only day that I trade without high news, without high impact news, then I would look at, for example, CPI. If we have CPI on a Tuesday, if Wednesday doesn't have any high impact news, then I can still look to trade that. Then that's, for me, it's perfectly fine because there's still volatility coming in from the previous day, if that makes sense. So that is perfectly fine. What's up, Don? How are you doing? You trade ICT? Yes. The basics of ICT. And for the rest, it's all my own understanding. So I want to clear that up as well. The basics is for sure all credits to ICT. After I learned the basics from ICT, I went my own way. Purely through my own studying, I got to basically everything that I'm teaching as well. Or if you had to make 50K a month to replace your job, is this possible? For sure, 50K a month is possible. It's quite a lot of money, of course. Meaning that, is this a very achievable goal for an average trader, or is this the domain of a 1% elite trader? Oof, that is not the average trader, I would argue. That is definitely a 1% elite trader. But then it becomes more so important to understand what is the average trader, because the average trader is not even profitable, I would argue, and they are an unprofitable trader. So the average trader is not even profitable. If you are in the 1% of an elite trader, you are just already profitable. Then to make 15K, I think the average to make 15K, if you are a profitable trader, yes, that is very doable. As in, that is the average, I think. As in, that can be doable. But to get to the profitable stage is the hardest. Not to make 15K, it's to get to the profitable stage. Because once you are profitable, it's like, all right, we can just look to scale. It's, if you can make 40% in a year on a 10K account, then you basically already made 15K. You just need the money to do it. So it's again, that sounds of course very simple, but if you can find an investor then, or you can get funded, etc., eventually you can look to scale. So yes, I do think it's possible, 100%. It's only, the problem is getting profitable, not necessarily 15K, because that becomes quite easy once you are profitable. Quite easy is of course an over-exaggeration, but I think you understand what I'm saying. I am from the Netherlands. Do you recommend me something? I am a beginner, not complete beginner. I'm in Forex from 1 month, so I know the basics. Like, I want to learn liquidity, fair value gap, and order block. I would advise the A to Z guide. If you go to my YouTube, Sammy, and you go to my YouTube in the playlist, the free A to Z guide, you can fully go over that. Free A to Z guide. All right, then I'm going to end it right here. And I will go over again one last announcement, because I see a few questions as well about the mentorship. Is that the mentorship is looking to open up very, very soon. We need to get a few things right, etc., to open up. We will have new features as well, a new website, a
a whole lot of new things that I'm very excited on, but we need to do it properly and not rush it right there. So we need to do it properly, hopefully opening up somewhere next week. Then the masterclass and the essentials. What is the difference? The difference is mainly the support, which again doesn't make the essential any less valuable, because you're going to have the same content except for live sessions, the champion mindset, and the funded guide. It's extras right there, where the basics, the foundation that you need is also in the essentials. So you're not missing out on anything. I'm not hiding anything from you in the masterclass. That's important. So that is basically the difference. And as well, we are going to work with a ticket system in the essentials, which means that the support will be more so there as well in the essentials for the next, for the new website. So support is not totally let loose anymore like it was previously. So that is also very, very interesting. There's a lot of new features, which of course will also be announced. All right, then I'm going to end it right here. I am not going to do sale, because if you spam it, I am not your dog, then I am definitely not going to do it. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it a lot. Love you all, and take care. Take care, and good luck this week. And definitely remember what we talked about, right? Remember what we talked about. All right, perfect. Thank you.